Hi, I'm Seamless, and today is Tuesday, which means it's time for a new basic terminology video. And today we're going to be talking about harmonics. And a lot of things to do with harmonics, things like harmonic partials, inharmonic, and partial in general. So, harmonics is easy. It's basically any sine wave above the fundamental that's a multiple of the fundamental. So, like when I play a saw wave, we can see a whole bunch of harmonics. They're just there. Ta-da! If you look at any of these sounds, if you look at any sound at all, actually, like I have just a vocal. If I play the vocal, really, really low, but when you see the motion of the harmonics in an analyzer like this, any of those single harmonics you're seeing flying around, or single partials really, are individual sine waves. So what's a partial? Now, you might hear the term harmonic partial and harmonic partial, whatever. This has to do with what's essentially referred to as a complex tone. A complex tone is something that's just essentially more complicated than just one sine wave. Because if you ever look at what a frequency is just a sine wave. And you see one oscillation at a perfect rate, and there's no additional harmonics involved, no additional sound at all. It's just a sine wave. That's just one frequency. So if you have a fundamental tone, which is say the note of whatever you're singing or saying or doing or whatever. So like right here, that would be the fundamental tone. Everything above that is a partial. It's a part of the complex tone that makes up the whole sound. Every single one of those are individual sine waves. And if they are harmonic, then they are harmonic partials. So what would be a harmonic partial? What is harmonic? Harmonic, is like I said before, is when the partials are in series that is a multiple of the fundamental. So double the fundamental, 1.5x, that whole thing. It's referred to as the harmonic series. So when I play the saw wave, what we're looking at here, we see we have the fundamental, and then the first octave is the first harmonic, and then we have the second harmonic, which is fifth above this first one, so it's half again, and then half again, half again, half again, and so on and so forth. This particular view of the harmonics that we're looking at with the EQ here is balanced for octaves, which is to say that octaves are given even spacing. You can see that up here with the sort of the measurement of like what C is up here. So like here's middle C and one octave higher C, and then all the octaves are the same range. And then down here, you can see the actual hertz counts. You can see here from 50 to 100 hertz is the same range as 5,000 to 10,000 hertz up in the higher frequencies. Because as it turns out, as you get a higher octaves worth of the harmonic series, each octave has twice as many harmonics in them as the one previous, which is fun. So what happens if we make them inharmonic, where we fuck with them a little bit? And move them around, and now they sound weird. What's going on there? Well, they are still partials, and they're still harmonics. Well, they're not harmonics anymore. They're inharmonic. They are inharmonic partials. Because they are no longer multiples of the fundamental. And you can kind of tell by the fact when you hear them and they sound super duper wrong. Wrong. Like the right feeling togetherness of something that's harmonically right is something that's pretty easy to key into. Provided I guess you aren't tone deaf. I'm not totally sure what like literal tone deafness is, but if you're producing music, you probably get it. But that's really all there is to that whole business. So understanding this is pretty key, especially when you're using something like Harmor, because the whole point of this, the whole idea is based on the idea that if we look at a complex tone like a saw wave, that if we were to isolate any individual partial, that it would just be a sine wave. And something like Harmor is built on the idea that, okay, if any sound that we take and we isolate they're all just individual sine waves, then theoretically, if we play sine waves manually at all of those positions, we should be able to rebuild the sound. This is the entire crux of what's referred to as additive synthesis. Subtractive synthesis is all about taking away from a complex tone. So like what we're doing right now is subtractive synthesis, because we have a much more complex tone, and we're taking away from it to create a new tone. And additive synthesis is all about building that building whatever sound it is at all, everything from its component partials. So that's what that is. Whenever you see me do like a 75K or something, you see me open up an analyzer, I'm looking at the harmonics and that kind of thing. I'm looking for particular motions and movements that just essentially equal what I understand to be the results of particular kinds of processes. Like FM looks a certain way, bandpass. Like if I see like that result in an equalizer, like if I look at an equalizer that I'm not in control of, like if I see that going on in an equalizer, I can see that and go, they're like a single band seems to be moving up and down. That must be a bandpass. Like that's how I use analyzers to sort of determine sound design if I want to reverse engineer something. Understanding harmonics is also super key, because if you look at something like a saw wave versus a square wave, we can see a subtle difference in harmonic distribution. And in fact, the difference is that square waves have every other harmonic. They have they have all the odd numbered harmonics, and all the even numbered harmonics are removed. So we get this kind of doubled up, sort of expanded harmonic palette, which equals a square wave. This is why Harmor starts off with saw versus square. And this is kind of important because you can get something that isn't a saw wave, like something that's not like fully actually a saw, and you can still get saw-based harmonics. Because if you screw around with any part of the saw wave, like if I mess around with a phase, for example, let's not do pulse. You can see that starts to royally mess with it. Like that's not a saw wave anymore. But the harmonics are still the same. The harmonics are the things that are still active. And that's because for it to actually create the shape of a saw wave, it has more to do with what harmonics are active. It has also to do with like the phases and that kind of stuff. But in terms of pure harmonicness, you can get a saw wave series out of something that's not a saw wave. And even kind of still sounds like a saw wave. But again, this is why Harmor starts you off with saw harmonics and square harmonics, because even though you might think of that as being limited to being just a saw wave or a square wave, you do things to it, and you mess around with it to equal out either square wave harmonics or saw wave harmonics. And for the most part, if you're talking about reverse engineering, this is one of the first things I look for when I'm looking at the reverse engineer. When I'm looking at the actual final result, I'm looking at it to see if it has a saw wave series or a square wave series. And the easiest way to figure that out is to find the fundamental and then find out how far away the first harmonic is. And if it's an octave and a half versus just an octave, then it's a square wave series. Or it's possible that it's a different series entirely. Like there's some ways where you can you just do this, you take away the fundamental, and then you get a different look. You get this, and it's just like it's hard to tell if that's perfectly just a saw wave or not. And if it did that as a square, this actually kind of looks like a saw wave up here where it is. And it's hard to tell just from looking at it, but it's not. But you can tell oftentimes just by listening to it, even when you screw it up enough. Saws tend to have that bite to them, and squares tend to have the smoothness to them. That's just sort of their calling card, I guess. But all of that has to do with their harmonic content. So you want to pay attention to harmonic content. Harmonics being multiples of the fundamental and that are in the particular harmonic series and that kind of thing. I hope all of that made sense. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe, and all of that good stuff. And as usual, have a nice day.